Hello everybody. Welcome to yet another video with Akash Cooks. In the kitchen today, we have ingredients like segmentation and ranking to make a mouth-watering segmented sausage and egg sandwich. We will be learning how to create segments in our dataset and also rank them based on their sales. So let's dive right in. We have some sales data loaded in for you. So let's go over to our data view to have a look at our data. As you can see, we've got our company names, we've got a representative in those companies, we've got a contract start date, we have some contact details, and we have some numericals. The sales column is something interesting, and this is what we will be working with. We also have some order quantity and list price data. So let's go over to the query editor to perform our transformations. In the query editor, we can also have a look at our data and select what we need from here. And in this case, we will be using the group by function. But before I do that, let me just create a duplicate of this particular page so that I can keep the original one intact. Now let me call the duplicate something like a company sales data or something like that. So let's go to the group by function. In the group by function, we have basic and advanced. Advanced is nothing but having multiple basic functions together. So let's just go with basic. We want to group by the company name. Let's call the new column total sales. And we want the operation to be a sum of the sales column. Once you have this, hit OK. As you can see, the second table just shows us this data, the company name and the total sales. Once we have this, hit close and apply. We have now loaded in our group by table. As you can see, we've got our company name and the total sales representing that company. Now let's segment them into categories. For example, let's say anyone with a total sales of more than 15 million, let's call them sausages. Anyone with a total sales of more than 5 million, let's call them egg. And everyone else, let's call them bread. Okay, so here I'm going to be teaching you two different functions. The first one is going to be switch. So for that, let's create a new column. Let's go over to the modeling tab, hit on new column. So what we want switch to do is basically, if a condition is true, then we want it to display a specific result. Right, so let's write true, comma. Let's take total sales from company sales data. And if total sales is greater than 15 million, return sausage. If total sales is greater than 5 million, let's call it egg. And for everything else, we will call it bread. As you can see, we created a new column classifying each company into their specific buckets. This was the segmentation function, but we have three different segments, and they have pretty wide ranges. What if we want to view these companies by rank? There is another function called rankx, which we will be doing right now. So let's create a new column for that as well. Let's call this column rank. Here we will be using the rankx function. Now what the rankx function does is it just provides ranks based on the total sales. So I will pick the total sales column. So let's create a new column for that, just like how we did it for the bucket column. Just hit a new column. Let's call this column rank. Here we will be using the rankx function. So let's select the table name, which is company sales data. The expression to be evaluated is total sales. Here let's ignore the value field. You can choose ascending or descending. In this case, I'm going to choose ascending. You also have the option of selecting what do you want it to do with the ties. So if there's a tie, you can decide if you want it to skip it or if you want to make it dense. Hit enter. This gives us the rank. Once we have segmented and ranked each of our accounts, let's go over to the visualization pane to see what we can do with this data. Here we have a blank page. Let's start by adding a couple of slicers. We need slicers to filter out data based on their segments and ranks. So let's create the first slicer for a segment. So let's look for the bucket column here. Click on the visual, drag the bucket column into the fields pane. And as you can see, we've got a list of 3. Let's make this a drop down. There we go. That's easier for us. Now let's also create a similar slicer. I'm just copying pasting the same thing. And here let's replace bucket with rank. Now we don't need to see all the ranks. So let me just add a top 100 function on this. So let's filter out by rank where the value is less than or equal to 100 and apply the filter. As you can see, we have data just for the first 100 ranks now. So what else can we visualize in this? Another important figure is the total number of sales. So let's create a card and let's add in total sales into this column. This first gives us the count, but that's not what we want to see. So let's change this calculation to sum. 2.75 billion. Well, that's a lot of sales. What else can we see? Let's view our total sales by segment. So let's create a bar graph. Let's bring in our total sales into the values field. Let's bring in bucket into our axis field. Let's create our data labels so we know exactly which category has how many counts. There we go. That's our visual for total sales by bucket. Let us see all the other data we have. So let's just create a table and bring in the data we've just added to it. So let's bring in the company, the total sales. We don't want the count of it, so let's change it to sum. Let's bring in the rank. We don't want the count again. Let's also bring in the bucket it falls under. There we go. This is all the data we have. Let's also create a bar graph to see our total sales by company. So let's build out an empty bar graph here. Let's bring in company into the axis field and bring in total sales into value. Now when you bring in total sales into value, it by default gives us a count. Let's change that to sum. Here we have our values. We don't want to see all the companies, so let's just limit it down to the top 10. So let's go over the companies filter here. Click on top N, enter the number 10, and we want it to be filtered by total sales. Switch that count back to sum again and hit OK. This gives us the top 10 companies by total sales. Let's also add in some data labels. And once you have done a little bit of formatting, I will show you how it looks. So this is what our report looks like after some formatting and editing. And here we have our final segmented sausage and egg sandwich. Thank you so much for joining me. And please do let me know if you want to learn about anything else regarding Power BI. Just drop it in the comments or send me an email, and I will make sure that we have an episode targeting that. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next episode.